General Hospital teaser. In the midst of the overwhelming turmoil that had engulfed his life, Gio stood utterly shaken, caught in a maelstrom of raw, conflicting emotions that left him reeling. The revelation that Brooklyn and Chase, two people he had never truly known as family, were, in fact, his biological parents was a crushing blow that shattered everything he thought he knew about himself. For years, Gio had navigated life with a fragile sense of belonging, believing in the love and safety provided by those around him, only to discover that much of it had been carefully concealed behind layers of deceit. The sudden flood of betrayal was suffocating. It clawed at his heart, leaving him feeling abandoned and unmoored in a world that now seemed alien and hostile. Adding to the weight of this betrayal was the profound grief Gio still carried from the recent loss of his adoptive mother, the woman who had nurtured him, shielded him, and given him a sense of home. That grief had already carved deep wounds in his soul, and now the cruel truth about his origins reopened those wounds with fresh, unrelenting pain. The fact that Lois, a figure who had ostensibly cared for him, had intentionally hidden his true parentage gnawed at him with a bitterness that was hard to contain. Her deliberate choice to keep him in the dark, to manipulate and control his life under the guise of protection, felt like a cold, calculated betrayal that left Gio questioning everything about his past and his identity. Overwhelmed by fear and uncertainty, and unsure of where else to turn, Gio sought out Sonny. His grandfather, a figure who loomed large in family stories yet had remained distant and enigmatic in his own life. Approaching Sonny was not an easy step. It was fraught with vulnerability and apprehension, as Gio had no certainty of the reception he would receive. Yet, desperate for guidance, for a protector who could offer a semblance of security amidst the chaos, Gio bared his soul and laid bare the painful secrets he had uncovered. He confided in Sonny about Lois's hidden role in his life, about the years spent living a lie, and about the suffocating weight of her control, which had kept him tethered to falsehoods and manipulated realities. Sonny, a man renowned for his sharp mind, intuitive understanding of family dynamics, and an unyielding sense of loyalty, listened with grave concern. As Joe's words unfolded, revealing the complex and shadowy relationship Lois had maintained. Keeping Gio as an adopted son while concealing his true lineage, Sonny's instincts flared. He immediately recognized that this was far more than a personal betrayal. It was a dangerous secret with the power to unravel the very fabric of the Quartermain Falconary family. The hidden truth was a ticking time bomb, threatening not only Joe's emotional and physical safety but also the delicate balance of alliances, loyalties, and legacies painstakingly built over decades. In that charged moment, Sonny's resolve crystallized. He understood that protecting Gio meant more than offering shelter or advice. It required confronting the darkness head-on, exposing the lies, and standing firm against the forces that had perpetuated this deception. He knew the path ahead would be fraught with conflict, heartbreak, and upheaval, but the alternative, allowing the truth to remain buried and the damage to fester, was unacceptable. Sonny's commitment was unwavering. He would stand by Gio, shield him from further harm, and seek to dismantle the web of lies Lois had woven before it could destroy everything they held dear. The stakes were higher than ever, and Sonny was ready to face the storm, prepared to fight for the family's survival and for Joe's chance at a life defined by truth rather than betrayal. For countless years, Lois carried the immense and suffocating burden of safeguarding a secret that defined the very core of her existence. The true origins of Gio Palmieri. This secret was a carefully guarded truth she kept not only hidden from Brooklyn and Dante, Joe's biological parents, but also from Gio himself and virtually every person within their intimate circle. Alone and isolated in her struggle, Lois stood as the sole sentinel of this deception, shielding it from exposure even as the pressure to reveal the truth grew unbearably intense. Every day was a delicate balancing act, as she navigated the intricate web of lies and half-truths she had spun, hoping to maintain the illusion of normalcy and protect the fragile bonds of family that hinged precariously on her silence. Meanwhile, Lulu, driven by unwavering determination and fueled by a relentless quest for justice, alongside the steadfast support of Cody, pursued their investigation with unyielding focus. They delved deeper into Joe's mysterious background, following every lead, every whisper of doubt, inching ever closer to the undeniable truth. The impending DNA test results loomed like a ticking time bomb, threatening not only to unveil the secret Lois had guarded so fiercely but to dismantle the entire foundation upon which the family's present was built. The revelation promised to shake the very pillars of trust and loyalty, exposing a betrayal so profound that it could irreparably fracture relationships and shatter lives. Adding to the emotional turmoil was the tragic and heart-wrenching loss of Joe's adoptive mother, whose passing left Gio vulnerable and adrift in a sea of grief. The void left by her death was vast, and as Gio grappled with his sorrow, the looming discovery of his concealed lineage intensified his sense of isolation. To realize that those he had trusted, the very people who were meant to nurture and protect him, had instead woven a labyrinth of deceit around his identity was a devastating blow. The betrayal cut deeply, threatening to unravel his sense of self and plunge him into emotional turmoil from which recovery would not come easily. Within the close-knit community of Port Charles, the undercurrents of impending upheaval grew stronger each day. Rumors and hints of a scandal of unprecedented magnitude began to surface, casting shadows over familiar faces and beloved families. At the eye of this storm stood Lois Cerullo, whose long-held secret, that Gio was the biological child of Brooke Lynn Quartermaine and Dante Falconeri, stood on the verge of exposure. The implications of this secret extended far beyond a mere family revelation. It represented a carefully constructed veil of deceit that had ensnared not only Brooke Lynn and Dante but also Ned Quartermaine, Gio himself, and many others who had been kept in the dark. The only person who knew the full extent of the truth was Lois's mother, Gloria Cerullo, whose role was that of confidant and silent guardian of the secret. As Lulu's investigation reached its crescendo, the precarious equilibrium that Lois had maintained teetered dangerously close to collapse. The discovery threatened to ignite a chain reaction of emotional devastation. Brooke Lynn would be confronted with the painful knowledge that her son had been hidden from her all these years. Dante would face the bitter reality of lost time and fractured trust. Ned Quartermaine's sense of family and legacy would be challenged, and Gio himself would have to reconcile his shattered identity and the betrayal inflicted upon him by those closest to him. The orchestrated adoption, a scheme designed to keep Gio near yet out of sight, was not merely a matter of protection but a profound deception, a betrayal that, if revealed, would reverberate through the entire Quartermaine Falconeri clan. The stakes could not have been higher. Should Lulu's findings be made public, Lois would be forced to confront the full force of anger, disappointment, and heartbreak from those she had endeavored to shield. The fragile threads holding her family together threatened to snap, leaving Lois isolated and vulnerable. The critical question that loomed over her was whether she could find a way to stem Lulu's crusade, to prevent the truth from shattering everything, or if the inevitable exposure would lead to an irreparable rupture in the family's fabric. In the shadow of this impending revelation, the very definitions of love, loyalty, and family were poised for reckoning, with Lois's secret standing at the heart of the storm. The emotional devastation rippling through the family extended far beyond Joe's own shattered heart. It engulfed Brooke Lynn with a fury that shook her to her core. Upon the agonizing revelation that her son, the child she had mourned and searched for over the years, had been living mere steps away, hidden in plain sight under Lois's relentless and manipulative control, Brooke Lynn's world unraveled. The crushing weight of betrayal was suffocating. She grappled with the overwhelming sense that Lois had not only stolen years of irreplaceable motherhood but had deliberately orchestrated a web of deceit that kept Gio from the family he belonged to. This wasn't just a breach of trust, it was a violent severing of the bond that should have never been broken. Consumed by rage and heartbreak, Brooke Lynn's anger became a tempest that threatened to tear apart everything she had fought for, threatening the delicate, fragile connections binding the family together. Her once steadfast resolve gave way to a storm of anguish that made every relationship vulnerable to fracture. Dante's turmoil mirrored this chaos in intensity and complexity. The realization that Lois had actively denied him access to his own son was a dagger to his heart. Wrestling with a torrent of emotions, betrayal, helplessness, sorrow, he found himself caught in an inner conflict that challenged his identity as a father and a man. His anguish was compounded by the already fraught dynamics within the family, especially concerning Sonny, who had unexpectedly become the guardian and protector of Gio. The suddenness of this role thrust upon Sonny added layers of tension, forcing Dante to reconcile feelings of resentment with the need to protect the boy caught in the crossfire. Every interaction became a delicate dance of suppressed emotions and unspoken grievances, threatening to ignite further conflict. Adding to the maelstrom was Ned Quartermaine, Brooke Lynn's father and the family's patriarch, whose pride in the Quartermaine legacy burned fiercely. For Ned, Lois's deception was not merely a personal slight, it was a profound betrayal that sullied the family name and legacy he had devoted his life to preserving. His indignation resonated through the family and beyond, fueling a growing chorus of condemnation and distrust toward Lois. The gravity of the betrayal compelled Ned to take a firm stance, rallying those around him in defense of the family's honor and demanding accountability. This united front of anger and disillusionment cast a long shadow over Lois, isolating her emotionally and socially within the very family she had tried to protect through deception. In the midst of this mounting hostility, only Gloria Cerullo, Lois's mother, stood steadfast as a beacon of support. Gloria's loyalty to her daughter was unwavering, and she endeavored to shield Lois from the full brunt of the family's wrath. Yet even her support was strained under the relentless pressure and heartbreak permeating the family, underscoring how precarious Lois's position had become. Faced with an almost unanimous front of ire and disappointment, Lois was forced into a corner, confronting the crushing reality that her carefully guarded secrets might no longer save her. The critical question loomed large. Could she find a way to justify her choices and mend the fractured bonds, or would the tidal wave of resentment overwhelm her, leaving her utterly alone in the wreckage she helped create? Meanwhile, Gio found himself standing at a profound and painful crossroads. His soul, already bruised by loss and deception, struggled to reconcile the competing forces within him. The desire to forge genuine connections with his biological parents and the deep-seated wounds inflicted by years of lies and manipulation. Each step toward rebuilding trust felt fraught with uncertainty and emotional peril. The nurses' ball, a significant social event, became an intense stage upon which Joe's internal battle played out openly. Surrounded by family, friends, and curious onlookers, every glance and whispered conversation seemed to weigh heavily on him. His silent struggle between the raw pain of betrayal and the fragile hope for acceptance was palpable, casting a somber shadow over the festive atmosphere. Compounding Joe's turmoil was the escalating tension within the Quartermaine estate, where old wounds and new conflicts simmered dangerously close to boiling over. The strained relationships, particularly involving Gio and Rocco Falconeri, intensified the atmosphere of uncertainty and unease. These conflicts, layered with unresolved anger and mistrust, created an oppressive environment that left Gio feeling cornered and overwhelmed. The pressure mounted relentlessly, pushing him to a breaking point where he was forced to consider a harrowing choice: to remain tethered to a family whose foundations were shaken by betrayal, or to walk away and seek solace elsewhere before the fractures widened beyond repair. In this crucible of emotion and upheaval, Joe's decisions would not only shape his own future but would reverberate through the lives of everyone entwined in this tangled family saga. Amidst the swirling chaos and emotional turmoil that had engulfed the lives of everyone involved, Sonny emerged as the solitary beacon of support for Lois, a steadfast anchor in the midst of a tempest that threatened to consume her completely. Having been cast out from the opulent and once safe confines of the Quartermaine estate by the overwhelming fury and rejection of the family she had so desperately tried to protect, Lois found herself isolated, vulnerable, and bereft of sanctuary. Stripped of all familiar comforts and allies, she was left with little choice but to seek refuge in the one person who could offer her not only a physical safe haven but also a profound understanding born from years of intertwined histories and unspoken loyalties. Sonny, who had long stood beside her through various trials, became her sole place of solace, a harbor where she could begin to breathe again amid the relentless storm of accusations and heartbreak. Their relationship, previously grounded in mutual respect and guarded camaraderie, now began to unfold into something far more intricate and intimate. Layers of connection, forged in the crucible of shared adversity, surfaced, revealing a fragile yet powerful bond that transcended mere alliance. Sonny's perceptiveness allowed him to see beyond the surface of Lois's actions, beyond the tangled web of deceit and secrecy, to the heart of a woman driven by a fierce, albeit flawed, desire to protect those she loved, Gio and Brooke Lynn. Her decisions, though misguided in the eyes of many, stemmed from an instinct to shield her family from pain and chaos, even if it meant sacrificing her own reputation and standing within the family. This realization forged a silent empathy within Sonny, a nuanced compassion that softened the harshness of judgment and invited the possibility of forgiveness and understanding. For Lois, Sonny represented far more than just a physical refuge. He was the keeper of her deepest vulnerabilities and the sole witness to the complexity of her motives. In the face of near-universal condemnation and isolation, the sanctuary Sonny provided was not only a place to escape but also a lifeline to hope. A fragile promise that she might yet find redemption and rebuild the fractured relationships torn asunder by years of secrets. Their shared moments of quiet support became the threads weaving a tentative tapestry of trust and connection, fragile but vital amid the wreckage. Yet, the storm outside their fragile sanctuary continued to rage, threatening to sweep away any semblance of peace or progress. The increasing exposure of truths, the rising tide of anger and betrayal from those who felt wronged, and the looming specter of irreversible loss hung heavily over their fragile bond. The pressing question loomed like a shadow: would the connection between Sonny and Lois deepen into an unbreakable alliance, capable of withstanding the relentless pressures and mounting dangers? Or would it dissolve beneath the weight of pain, misunderstanding, and the inevitable fractures that come with such profound familial upheaval? As the delicate dance of revelation and consequence played out, those most deeply wounded by the unfolding drama, the betrayed, the forsaken, and the disillusioned, rose with voices demanding justice, truth, and a chance to heal their shattered hearts. In this fractured and volatile landscape, Gio stood at the epicenter, the axis upon which the family's future precariously balanced. His journey, fraught with internal struggle and the daunting task of reconciling love with betrayal, held the potential to redefine not only his own destiny but the very nature of family, trust, and forgiveness within a world riddled with deception and pain. Joe's resilience and choices would ripple outward, influencing the course of the entire Quartermaine Falconary legacy. His capacity to forgive or turn away, to rebuild bridges or burn them irreparably, would shape the narrative of healing or destruction for generations to come. In this crucible of broken trust and fragile hope, the true meaning of family would be tested and, perhaps, reborn. An arduous journey toward redemption, acceptance, and the possibility of love that transcends even the darkest of betrayals.